All right, I'm going to show how we do our tracks for the playback app for Multitracks at Relevant Church. You can set these tracks up on any Apple device, MacBook, iPhone, iPad. We play them at the church currently with an iPad, but the set lists can be created from any Apple device. So let's start with making a new set list for, let's do like a sample Sunday. So that we'll start with the set list button right here in the top right, and we'll hit new set list. If we wanted to open a set list from an existing Sunday that had been set up, it's right there. I'm going to pick a date in the past here just so it doesn't mess with any of the Sundays we have coming up. I'll just pick a random day, but you would pick a Sunday coming up, or maybe if it's a motion night, pick the Wednesday. You can give it a name if you want. I think by default, if you don't give it a name, it will name it whatever the date that you pick is. So in this case, November 11th. All right, so we'll start by doing, let's say that song number 1 for this set list is a brand new song that we have never done before, never done tracks for. Here's how that would work. I'll show you how we do existing songs that we've done before here in just a minute. So we'll go add song, pick from our library. We would have had to purchase the song already if it's a new song on Multitracks' website. I won't show you that now. That's kind of a whole different thing. Let's do 1,000 Tongues just because I know we haven't done this song on this playback app before. So if I go to arrangement here, you can see it just has default. There's no arrangements for like Sunday morning or anything. So this is kind of a fresh slate for the song. So let's say we're going to do this song. It's normally in G. That's when a male leads it. Let's say, just for this example, because this happens a lot, say a female's going to lead it and they want it in the key of B. So 4 semitones up. You would just hit that key button and then pick the key that you want. So we'll say key of B and then load it in. And so it will download the tracks in that key. Multitracks already has all of these tracks saved in every available key so that you don't have to do it on the device. We'll talk about that more in a second. Okay, so here we are. This is the default setup that comes on all tracks. All the faders are all the way up. The click and stuff normally comes like this. The first thing we want to do is save this as a new arrangement so that everything that we do here can be pulled up at a later date if we do the song in the future. So you would want to hit this edit button if it hasn't already been pressed, and then hit these little 3 dots on the song, and we will go save as new. We can't save over the default arrangement. It's always there. It can't be modified. So we'll go save as new. I've been calling these RC for Relevant Church. I name them promotion nights. You can name them whatever as long as it's distinguished for what it's for. You could call it, Sunday mornings, and then have a different arrangement for if you did this for a worship night or a motion night. So we'll call it RC, and now it's saved. So now we need to go through this song instrument by instrument, or I should say fader by fader, and set things the way they need to be set. So there's a few things that are done the exact same every time we're setting up a song that is just always standard for us. So you want to turn the accent beat on, and bring it to about 50%. This is like a different accent in the click that happens on the 1 beat of every measure so that the band knows where the downbeat is. The next thing we want to do, usually the 1/4, 1/8, 16th, you can leave them kind of the same. The guide we want to bring down to 50% because by default it is kind of loud and ends up being a little bit louder than the click itself. This is just the section that counts out each section, so it'll do a 4 count into every chorus, verse, bridge, etc. So those are the first 2 things we want to do, is set those to turn the accent on. That is done by, any track can be turned on and off by tapping on the name of it here at the bottom. You can tell it's off because it's grayed out. Now we need to go through each of the instruments here and turn off the ones that we know for a fact that are going to be played by somebody on stage. So we would definitely want to turn off, basically every time, turn off drums, turn off bass. So let's say we have an acoustic guitar this week. Sometimes we don't, but in this case, we'll say someone's scheduled to play acoustic. We'll turn that off. If someone's playing piano, we turn that off. On the far right is always where the vocals are. In this case, there is a background vocals and a choir. I'm going to turn both of those off because we have background vocals on stage. Sometimes you will have like a vocal effects. It may say Vox effects somewhere here on the right. Sometimes that track is useful to still leave on, but maybe bring down to like a quarter of its original. We don't want it to be overpowering the actual onstage voices, but maybe sometimes that would have some sound effects that are still useful to have on the song. Okay, so that's everything I need to turn off. For now, we are going to have, say we have a rhythm guitar and a lead guitar. We do still need to figure out which of those to turn off, but I'm not going to do that quite yet. I'm going to go back here to the beginning, and I want to see what this loop is. Sometimes it'll be a loop, sometimes it'll say SFX, sometimes it'll say there'll be like percussion tracks, sometimes multiple percussion tracks. You always want to listen to each of these percussion tracks and see what they are, see if they're necessary, see if your drummer is going to be playing them or not. I would say rarely do we leave any of these percussion tracks. This is always where anything percussive is always going to be on the left. Like after the guide, you have drums. If you had percussion, tambourine, stuff like that, that would always go here, loop. And then after all that stuff, then it moves. The next thing you see here is bass. So now you get to the actual instruments that play notes. So let's just listen through the song and see what this loop track is.
1, 2.
I will hit the solo button right here so that I only hear the loop. I don't hear it yet, so let's scroll to, say, a chorus and see if the loop plays there. Okay, so it's like a shaker. Let's go to maybe like this loud bridge and see what it does there. Still a shaker. Just make sure it doesn't do anything else. Tambourine. Okay, so we'll leave it on, but we don't want it to be super loud. I'll bring it to, say, half. Okay, now the electric guitars. For every time that you set up a new song like this, we need to denote what each guitar track is. Sometimes there's 1, sometimes there's 2 or 3. In this case, we have 4. Sometimes there's 7 or 8. But the first time that we're setting this up in the tracks, we need to make a note somewhere of what each electric guitar track is, and that needs to be put into the band notes section for that song in Planning Center so that our guitar players, rhythm and lead, know which parts they should be focusing on, unless maybe they're skilled enough that they're going to tell you which parts they want to play. If they listen to all of them and say, okay, I'm going to play guitar number 3, then we know to turn off guitar 3. But 95% of the time it goes the other way, where we need to listen when we're setting up the tracks here what the guitar parts are, and then we can tell them which guitar part is what. So I'm just going to do the same thing I did with the loop track a second ago. I'm going to solo guitar 1 and just listen. Not in the intro. Let's see if it's in here. Okay. So like open chords. Let's see what it is in the chorus. So it's like distorted single notes. Let's see what it is in this chorus. Same thing. What does it do in the bridges? I'm kind of skipping around here because I've done this a lot. You may want to listen to more of the song all the way through so that you can hear everything it does. A lot of times these guitar tracks, like you just heard with this one, will not play. Not all the guitar tracks will play for the entire song. A lot of times there may be guitar tracks that play maybe like only for like these 2 bridges, and then the rest of the entire song they're silent, so you have to kind of skip around and find what they do. Let's go to this last chorus. Same thing. So this is kind of like distorted single notes. I wouldn't call this a lead or a rhythm track yet. I would maybe just note down somewhere what that is until I get through the rest. So let's go to number 2 and see what that is. Let's go back to the top. Nothing in that section. Okay, so we're playing higher notes. This one has a higher chance of being a lead part, I'd say. higher chords. You have to remember this sounds a little higher than normal because we did change this from G to B, so all the guitar parts are going to sound a little higher. I would say tentatively this is a lead part. Let's go to the bridges. Probably a lead part. Okay, so I would write down tentatively that EG2 is the lead. I wouldn't finalize it until I've heard all the others. Let's go to number 3. Let's just listen to the same section. Okay, so just kind of a repeated notes. Let's see what it is here. Nothing. Let's see what it is in this chorus. Same thing. This is like a drone. Let's try these bridges. Okay, so a lot more here. So that's kind of what I'm meaning, is that in the chorus, this guitar 3 is just like this same note over and over again, but it's doing way more louder and interesting stuff here in the bridge. There's actually multiple guitars here. That happens sometimes. Let's listen to what it does as it goes into the chorus here. I think it's just the repeating note. Okay, so I would say between these two that EG2 is the more like well-rounded lead part. So I would tentatively say EG2 is the lead and EG3 is like an alternate lead part, so that the lead player could maybe pick between those two what they want. Let's see what number 4 is. Okay, so big chords. Let's see what it is in this intro. Okay, so this is a lot more close to what I would say is a regular rhythm part. Just strumming chords with distortion. Let's hear it in this verse. And then the bridge. Yep. Palm muting chords. Okay, so I would definitely, in this case, between these 4, I would say number 2 is the lead and number 4 is the rhythm. So let's say for this week that we have a lead and a rhythm player, I would turn both of those off. And I would want to say in the Notes and Planning Center, EG2 is the lead, EG4 is the rhythm, EG3 is an alternate lead option. And then I would probably just leave 1 and 3 up, maybe turn 3 down a little bit. It is kind of drony. Let's listen to what the keys are to make sure there's nothing here that, since this track has been pitched up, there's nothing too loud that we need to bring down a little bit.
2, 3, 4.
Keys parts are actually kind of quiet on this song. A lot of synthy stuff. You can hear this EG1 part here is still kind of loud.
3, 4.
I usually will listen to the whole thing and kind of, once I've got the tracks taken out that I need to take out, and see what sticks out. Let's listen to this chorus. You can tell this is kind of one of the loudest parts. So this EG1 was here. I think it's a little loud, considering that we're going to have 2 other guitar players on stage. You could maybe even turn this part off. If you're going to have 2 guitar players on stage, you don't necessarily even need every other lead part that the tracks provide. It's kind of a song by song thing. You just got to make your own judgment on it. You don't want to have too many guitar parts. It can get kind of muddy. So let's see what else we need to do this song. We would need to set the transition for this song from this song to the next song. Let's just listen to the intro.
1, 2. Vamp. 2, 3, 4.
Okay, let's listen to the outro.
Ending. 2, 3, 4.
Okay, in this case we can leave this. Sometimes you would want to change the times on these, as maybe the intro or the outro is too long. Let's go ahead and put in another song for now. Let's do a song that we've done before. So that's a new song. Oh, Now that I've made all these changes to that song, turned all these tracks off, made adjustments to the levels, always remember to hit the edit button, then come here on this song and save to cloud, so that we've now saved that arrangement, so that anytime we pull up this song in the future, that all of the things that we just did are pulled up, and we don't have to do that again every time we ever play this song. So let's add another song that we have done before. This song looks great. So before I hit add here, and before I pick an arrangement, there's a very specific order that has to be followed here. Otherwise, things with the keys get a little weird, and the iPad will try to start transposing the song for you, like converting the audio, and it sounds weird. We want to definitely avoid that. So here's the order of steps that have to be done to avoid that. The original key of the song is B. Say we have a female singing this song also, and say they're doing it in the key of D. We want to pick the key first. You notice we've done this song in the past. I have not picked the arrangement yet. It's still at default. I've picked the key that I want, even if you're going to do it lower, higher or lower, or the original, doesn't really matter. We always want to pick the key first. Do not pick the arrangement. Leave it at default and hit add. It'll download the song. I'll go ahead and add in a third song here. That looks great. I'll leave it at the default key. I will not pick the arrangement yet, and I'll hit add. All right, so we have song 2 and 3. So remember, I want to bring this key up. Or sorry, I already did. It's in key of D. We want to bring up the arrangement from the past because we have done this song before. There is a saved arrangement for it. I don't want to have to set all these levels and tracks again every time. So we have the key we want in key of D. I'll hit edit, hit this 3 dots for that song, and then come in here and pick the arrangement. So here it is, RC. This is the one I've done before. Notice as soon as I picked that, it changed the key on me back to A, because the last time that we did this song with this arrangement, we did it in the key of A. Maybe it was male-led that time. But this time it's going to be female-led, and so we want it key of D. So we picked our arrangement, and then it overwrote the key that we had picked for us. If I hit update right now, it's, well, for one, not going to be the key that we want, but it's also going, because we picked the key of D first, it's going to convert all the audio files from the key of D to this now, the key of A, which is not what we want. For one, it's not the key that we want, and then for two, when you're converting files on the device like this, it doesn't sound near as good as it does for the different key files that Multitracks provides for us to be able to download. So once you've picked your arrangement, you want to go back here and make sure that you have the key that you want. So I need to change it back to D. If we've done this right, then as soon as I hit update here, it'll just be done. All right, we're good. You can see all the faders down here changed. If you did that out of order, then as soon as you hit update there, you'll see a little dialog box here in the center, and it will say, converting tracks to the new key, and you'll have a little progress bar here. That's not what you want. You would want to maybe delete that song and re-add it so that it's not trying to convert the files. You can do that if you need. I would say the one situation where that's good to do is, say we do the song in the key of D and we do it once in rehearsal, and the singer says, okay, I thought I could do that in the key of D. Turns out that's too high. I really need it in D flat. You would have two options then. One, you could make sure your arrangement here was saved. You could add it again in the key of D flat and repick the arrangement if you wanted to download all those keys from Multitracks without having to convert them. Or I would say it's okay in this case to just come in here on the little edit menu and change the key from D to D flat and hit update, and it's going to do this little conversion here. I'll cancel that for now, but I would say that's the situation. If you've picked a key, you've tried it once, and you're just maybe adjusting it like one key up or down, I think it's fine to change it there and have it convert for you. So we have that song. We would want to make sure that these guitar parts are right, because just because these are the guitar parts we had last time that we did the song, maybe one time you have a lead guitar player and then this time you don't have a lead guitar player. You would want to look on the band notes for the song in Planning Center to see what is guitar 2, what is guitar 3, which one's the lead, which one is the rhythm. If you don't have a lead player, say EG3 is the lead and you don't have a lead player this week, maybe you want to turn it on since you don't have that on stage. We'll leave it for now. So you can bring all this stuff up with the arrangement that kind of does a lot of it for you, but you still want to make a pass through here and just make sure everything is right and make sure it fits the people that you're going to have on stage for that day. Here's that vocal effects. In this case, it's called Vox Chop. We've got it turned on instead of off, and it's at like a quarter just to add some of that effect. I would do the same to the third song. So let's say this one we're going to keep in the key of D. I would hit Edit, pull up my arrangement. Here it is from the last time. Make sure it's the same key. Yes, it is. We're good. Hit Update, and we're fine. In this case, it looks like the arrangement is just the default. It looks like it probably got saved. Whoever did this last time, probably me, didn't save this with all of the tracks done right. But this is a good example of a big song with lots of tracks. You can see if we go to the right, we've got a choir, we got oohs and ahs, we have brass. I would probably bring these down some, the strings. And since we don't have any of this stuff on stage, this is a general rule I go by. If we don't have the stuff on stage, like you would maybe not want to have, you know, a whole brass and horn section maxed out. If we don't have that on stage, it gets kind of obvious when you hear that, you know, blaring through on the tracks. Same thing with, you know, strings, bells, stuff like that. I would maybe want to leave it in here to get that effect, but not to where it's the most prominent thing coming through the mix. So I'll just pretend I'm setting this up like for the first time like I did with the others. Turn on the accent, bring it to half, bring the guide to half, turn off the drums, turn off the bass, turn off the acoustic, turn off the piano if we have a piano player, and then I would go through and listen to each guitar again, see which ones need to be turned on and off, say it's those two, listen to the loop and the effects, see if they need to be brought down. And then the last thing is transitions. So this little icon here between the songs indicates what the transition is between each song. There's a few options. There is cue next song, which if you have that set, it will, as soon as the song ends, it will go into this song but not begin to play it. We usually only want that at, say, third song, when you don't want to automatically play like the thing we're going to be doing for reprise. There is stay in song, which would not cue the next song. There is auto link, which as soon as this song is done, it would immediately begin to play this song, but with no overlapping transition. We use that sometimes. There is overlap, which will, 5 seconds before this song is done, it will start to play the second song also at the same time, and they would overlap for those 5 seconds. Crossfade is the same as overlap, just a smoother transition. So while that overlap is happening, first song will be fading out during those 5 seconds, and then second song is fading up during those 5 seconds. I usually will pick crossfade, and then we also need to make sure we don't need to change our end time. So let's listen to the transition.
Ending 2, 3, 4.
So we'll be crashing out here.
1, 2. Intro.
Okay,
2,
so the crossfade
3,
works.
4.
I would say that transition is a little long. So the way that we change that is we go back and pick the first song, because we want to change the end time of the song. So we pick the first song and then click our little timer up here. Go to end point. I think that was maybe like 3 seconds too long, so I'll take from 3:52 to 3:49. If you wanted to set a fade out, you could. In this case, we don't need to because the transition is a crossfade, so it's going to be fading this song down and fading the next one up for us, so we don't need to do that. Let's see how it sounds now.
Ending 2, 3, 4.
So we're crashing out.
1, 2.
That's a lot better.
Intro 2, 3, 4.
You can't really tell the crossfade on this one because it kind of starts abruptly here. Sometimes in the count off section, you'll see it like fade up. But in this case, the song kind of starts so in your face that the crossfade doesn't really do a whole lot. That's okay. We'll listen to the transition out of this song and make sure it's good.
Ending 2, 3, 4. 1, 2.
So it's crossfading immediately.
Verse 2, 3.
I'd say that's
4.
good. Okay, so transitions are good. The next thing we need to make sure of is whether or not we need to loop anything. Typically between song 2 and 3, the singer will speak a transition. We need to have something here in the tracks to just underlay that and allow time for it. There's two different options that we can do here. One would be looping this first section of the third song. The way that you would do that is, well, there's a couple of different ways. One is while the tracks are being played. So say we're playing the track. At any point, the track operator can hit this little infinity symbol down here. Now you can see it here in the section. We're going to be looping this section forever until we hit that button again and turn it off. So that means as soon as I get to right here, it's going to loop.
Verse 2.
Let's see how it sounds.
4.
That one's okay. I think I would probably leave that. I think this section could be looped infinitely and it's not too jarring. Sometimes what you end up with is maybe the end of this, maybe it's an intro, maybe it's a verse, that maybe the end of the section, because it plays to the end of the section and then immediately jumps back to the beginning of it, right? Sometimes that sounds good and sometimes it doesn't. Maybe the sound of whatever is playing changes as the section goes, and so then whenever it jumps back to the beginning of the section when it loops, it's really jarring and obvious, just sound-wise, and so maybe you would not want to use that. Let me show you in this case where we would. So the first way is if we want to infinite loop that section like I just showed you, hit the infinity button. A really nice thing to do for the person who's running the track so that they don't have to manually press that button is we can hit the edit button and then hit this little loop icon here for that section that we wanted to loop, and it will ask us, do you want to preset this section to infinite loop? We'll say yes. Now we have that infinity there, and if we save this arrangement, then as soon as we make the transition from song 2 to 3, let's go to the end.
1, 2.
So we're going into song 3.
Verse 2, 3.
And here we are. It's already going to loop this. You can see our little verse 1 thing is flashing, which means it's going to be the next thing. Our loop is turned on, and we never had to press this manually. So whoever's operating the tracks doesn't have to reach over and do anything. It's just going to do it automatically. I would do that if you feel like this song is definitely one where you're going to loop this section. But say, like I said earlier, say when you loop this section, it just doesn't sound right. It's too jarring, which you definitely want to check for. The other option is we'll go to edit and hit plus between song 2 and 3. We're going to put in a pad, just a pad with a click on it. So instead of libraries for our songs, we'll hit click and pad. We want to make sure we pick the same tempo and the same key of whatever the song we're transitioning into is. In this case, it's song 3. You can see up here it's 68 BPM, 4/4 time. That's the other thing, you want to make sure the song's not 6/8 or 3/4 or something like that. So 68 tempo, key of D, which is the same key as the third song. Make sure that key is the same. That's super important. Hit add. Okay, so now we have this extra little click here. I basically always will set the transition out of the click into the third song as a crossfade. So now if we go to the end of second song,
1, 2.
we're fading into this pad.
2, 3.
So this is just
4.
a endless click. I'll probably do the same thing here as I do for the other stuff. Bring the guide to 50, turn the accent on, bring it up to 50. So we're just looping here forever. And whenever the tracks operator double taps third song, it will transition to that.
1, 2.
Crossfade to it.
Verse 2, 3, 4.
So that's the other way we can do that. Now we're in third song. In this case, I don't think we need it. I think that preset infinite loop works better. So we still have that, and we're good. The last thing we will need to do is make sure that the ending of third song sounds good. In this case, it's got like a really long ending. So the crash out is actually like here. We would just want to make sure that, say if they have a really long crash here, that we don't need to trim some of that off. So in this case, I think we would say we want the tracks to end here. Hit endpoint, bring it back to 629, or set from current if you have the playhead where you want it to be. And then we'll set it to make sure if you do adjust the end time, that you also enable the fade out. Otherwise, it's just going to stop playing abruptly while you still have stuff like going on in the tracks. So if we listen to that, you can see it fade out here once it gets to that point. So the last thing we need is what we do for the reprise. We currently do a progressional pad for this. They are all called moods. So we can just search for that. I typically will try to add the same key as the third song. So in this case, it's key of D. This is another kind of extended thing that we can do. There's a progression on it. We definitely, sometimes we'll have an arrangement for these also that we can pick, because these by default are pretty hot. You can see it turns the guide down, turns the percussion way down, turns the keys way down. These tend to be a little louder than the songs themselves, but this is how it would come in by default. So we would want to bring this way down, bring that way down. Let's listen to how that sounds.
Intro, 2, 3, 4.
That's good. So this is what we would play during the reprise. So that's it. We got our 3 songs, our transitions. Sometimes during rehearsal, we will discover things that, maybe we need to take out a section here, a section there. You can always do that with the edit button, and then add or delete with these buttons here. But that's pretty much most of what there is to it. Almost forgot one last thing. Make sure as soon as you're done with all of your track changes that you hit the setlist button up here and save to cloud. Otherwise, all the stuff that you've done wouldn't get saved so that they can pull it up at church on the tracks. But anytime you make changes to any of your set list, always hit save to cloud. And then you would also want to save any changes you've made to each arrangement. So I would save to cloud here, save to cloud here, and save to cloud here, so that whenever we pull these songs up in the future, that any of the changes, if we want to make any of the changes we've done today permanent for every time we do that song, you would want to do that. And then also save your set list to the cloud.